Today I will be refuting Daniel Ariano's main claim that zoological parks are detrimental to the health of the animal residents. He had three supporting claims were that the first one, animal enclosures failed to provide adequate amenities, animals held in captivity display out behavior, and captive animals are treated as commodities and their intrinsic value based on the genes that they carry. On his first claim, he kept on going back. The first and second they went like hand in hand, and he mentioned that their amenities were not adequate enough, which caused zoochosis, which is a typical modified behavior, which is the second point. However, he mentioned a lot about pacing, how since they didn't have enough space, they kept on going back and forth to make up for the activity. However, according to the Chicago Tribune, zoos have spent millions of dollars to try to help make their amenities adequate. In fact, the enrichment has been found in all these programs. They have decreased the zoochosis by 53%. And Laurel's Braitman's book, based on animal behavior, she stated that many zoos have enrichment programs in which animals are given distracting toys, puzzles to play with, food and food that takes longer to eat, and more complex additions to the enclosures. So they're not just neglected; they actually go and try to imitate what the wildlife will be like. So it's not like they totally forget about the animals. And then his second point also, he mentioned that this panda, she pretended to be pregnant so she could get, she noticed that she was getting better treatment. But according to an article published in the New York Daily News, in endangered species, phantom pregnancies, where the fake pregnancy, is actually common because they display pregnant behavior after noticing the change of treatment, and experts say that it is common for endangered species to have phantom pregnancies. According to this biologist, Andrew Wright. However, once the panda started demonstrating these behaviors, she was moved into like air-conditioned facilities. But the fact that the effort that they placed her into the better care, they realized that she needed that. I think that proves that they have adequate amenities as well. And then his third point was that captive animals are treated as commodities and that their intrinsic value is based on genes that they carry. There's a lot of talk about euthanasia, which is the active practice of killing animals because they're sick or injured. And they do this a lot in certain zoos. However, not all zoos practice it. It's mostly in Europe. In the United States, many ban euthanasia. They use contraception instead. In the article that Daniel used from CNN, it stated that they even, before they euthanized the giraffe, they they asked around to see if anybody would want to take in the giraffe so they wouldn't have to kill him due to the surplus, and then nobody stepped up to take him, so they took other steps towards that. And then according to the European Association of Zoos and Aquaria, Copenhagen Zoo had not broken any codes of conduct. It's been consistent in the approach of their animal population management. They have certain programs that they're supposed to go by, so they're not being cruel. It's just, this is what associations have put into place for them. And also for one of his sources, it was a biased source that I feel like they didn't take into consideration the other side. They use Captive Animals Protection Society, and they basically want to eliminate animals in general that is from entertainment or anything, as long they just want to keep them in the wild. So I feel like that was a little too biased to use. That's all I have.
All right, the structural stuff is pretty easy to follow. The first 2 points, basically it's a chain of arguments. That's the idea that you're trying to get to there, that the first one leads to the second one, and that's okay. You've got a good counterclaim here with evidence of your own that suggests that the zoos are decreasing the problem of this zoochosis, and that they have enrichment programs that are designed to address those particular kinds of issues. I think that's fine, although we do need to put this into some kind of context. What proof did the advocate offer about the significance of this? How dangerous is it to the animals? What impact does it have on the world? I think those are all reasonable questions to ask. And in fact, if the advocate was not making those particular arguments, I think you ought to be pointing that out and then say, that we are trying to address these kinds of issues, but there's still not any reason to believe that it's really particularly harmful to the animal. So we have decreased this to some degree. I thought that was fine. The second point talks about the particular example that the advocate used, saying that, that's pretty typical in animals that are endangered, that they do these kinds of things. I did like the kind of little twist of analysis that you put there. By the way, the fact that they do this to get better treatment shows that they have better treatment options available for the animals. In essence, there are, the animals are not being neglected in any of this situation just because, they've faked their pregnancy. I had a great speech a couple of years ago that said basically it's a waste of time to try and save the pandas. They're just awful animals that they don't want to save themselves. It's too much, and we're spending way too many resources trying to save the panda when we have other animals that we could be spending our time and energy on. I don't know that you want to go that far, but world's smallest violin for the panda faking her own pregnancy so she can get in the air conditioning. And then the argument about the euthanizing the giraffe and the other. I thought you had good responses on this. The animal was offered to other zoos. Nobody took it. It's against the rules in U.S. zoos to do this kind of thing, and so it's not going to be happening here. And in the long run, the source that they're using basically doesn't like the idea of animals having any human contact whatsoever in the first place. So we're listening to a kind of a pretty biased perspective here that really gets into value issues more than issues of fact. I think that's the way you need to phrase that argument. All right, thank you. It didn't stop.